going on, you guys? It's your boy Patrick, aka Addicted to Combat, back for another week of best bets and props, where I go over all of my bets placed for this weekend's UFC card, which is the final pay-per-view of the year, UFC 282, featuring a potential 5-round bout for the championship now. The vacant title is on the line at 205 between former champion Jan Blachowicz and fellow title challenger Magomed Ankalaev. So with Yuri Prochazka out for injury long-term, we now have this matchup to determine the new champion. So this card at UFC 282 has been chopped to pieces. There's a lot of short notice replacement bouts. There's just a lot of cancellations in general. So we still have 13 fights at this point on the card. I have 6 money line placed for this card and 3 long shot props as well that are just 0.1 units apiece. So I'm keeping it very basic this week. Just picking the winner, not getting fancy with how they win, when they win, but I will point out some additional props I do like at the very end. So without further ado, let's break into these bets. For further additional details on all of these fighters and how I think the fights will play out, check out my full card breakdown I released on Monday, and also the live stream I did on Tuesday night with my guy Clint from the Die Hard MMA podcast over there on Pub Sports Radio. I had him as my guest. It was an awesome time. Great insight from Clint and some cool prop betting ideas we had in that show. So check out those spots. I kept it simple this week. We'll get into the 6 money lines. I think 4 favorites, 2 underdogs. So before we get into that, check out BetUS Sportsbook. If you want an additional sportsbook, I'm partnered with them, and they do have the promo code AddictedToCombat125. You can find that on the screen or in the description. It gives you 125% deposit match bonus when you sign up with BetUS and deposit at least $100. All the way up to $2,500 you could multiply by that 125% for a sports book betting bonus. Free money, put it in your pocket, make money betting fights, and let's get into the first money line of the night, which is an underdog shot on TJ Brown. Slight underdog here. It's kind of a pick-em price tag between TJ Brown and Eric Silva making his debut in the UFC. I got minus 105 on the money line. I see plus 100 out there and might actually swing to more plus money on TJ Brown as the week goes on. But Eric Silva has had a very light resume. He won off the Contender Series a few months ago by round 1 ground and pound stoppage over a pretty inexperienced opponent. And before that, on the Mexican Fight League, Lux Fight League, he had 4 round 1 or round 2 submissions, all by rear naked choke. Very, very inexperienced opponents that gave up takedowns pretty easily. So I'm not really sold on the cardio of Eric Silva. This guy has not seen the scorecards in several years now, since like 2018 or early 2019. He's 35 years old and making his debut. So I'm very skeptical to back this guy at a favorite price tag. TJ Brown, proven cardio, proven durability in a lot of spots here. He does have the ability to, really bite down on his mouthpiece and go a 3-round fight. Now, he is going negative in the UFC. He's 2-3 in the UFC. Hasn't quite been able to put it all together consistently, but he's got much better technical boxing, in my opinion. And by the time TJ Brown falls apart later in a fight, he can get caught playing BJJ off of his back, getting controlled by better wrestlers. I don't think that's going to be the spot here. I think he's going to do enough early in this fight to either end the fight inside the distance or drag it out so late that it's past the normal comfort zone and experience of Eric Silva, who has a lot of early stoppages. So at minus 105 where I got it, or plus money, I like the bet on TJ Brown, who's the more proven UFC caliber fighter at this point. Again, not the best guy in the league, but he's at least a formidable threat more than any opponent Eric Silva has seen so far. So I put 1.05 units to win 1 on TJ Brown. Moving on to somebody who's even more proven in the UFC, Billy Quarantillo, to come in here and defeat Alexander Hernandez. Now, both guys have been in the UFC for a while. Alexander Hernandez has been at lightweight. He's moving down for featherweight at the first time in his UFC career. So that's already a red flag. And Alexander Hernandez has another red flag. That's his cardio in this bout. He usually gasses out. Very knockout or bust is Alexander Hernandez so far. He does have some wrestling skills that he sometimes uses, sometimes doesn't. But Billy Q has been off for 13 months, recovering after losing a very competitive, very fun, but a clear loss against Shane Burgos last November. Now, Billy Q, his best weapon is his cardio. He weaponizes it, drags his opponents into deep waters because he is a pretty durable guy, but he has crazy striking output. I think some of the best striking output by the numbers per minute in the featherweight division. So this guy throws with reckless abandon at times, big looping strikes. He can be hit, But at this weight class, I'm not sure if Alexander Hernandez's power is going to translate, and Billy Q has been tough so far. So I like Billy Q. I like him to get a late finish or a decision win here, and it's only minus 160 on the money line for the more proven guy at the weight class, a guy with relentless pace and pressure. I put 1.6 units on him to win one. I like Billy Q in this spot. Moving on to an underdog shot here on Chris Curtis to defeat Joaquin Buckley. We're still in the prelims. I put 2 units at plus 135 on Chris Curtis to defeat Joaquin Buckley. And you can get plus 140. You can get plus 145 on Chris Curtis at this point. So I snagged the early line when I finished my research on this one and made this bet a couple days ago. But I like plus 135. Any plus number on Chris Curtis, who's come through as an underdog now a couple of times in the UFC. I like him. He's the more experienced guy than Joaquin Buckley. He's a guy who's seen a wider variety of opponents than Joaquin Buckley. And so far, Chris Curtis is doing very well. He is coming off of a loss to Jack Hermanson over the summer, where he had to travel overseas to go on that UFC London card, I believe it was. And he was on short notice there, like he's been on many of his fights so far in the UFC. A little bit too much. Again, he was pushing his luck doing another consecutive fight on short notice after defeating Adolfo Vieira the month before that. But I think he's got the better striking output than Joaquin Buckley. He's a faster guy. Although Chris Curtis is older, he is more experienced than Joaquin Buckley. Athletic, very explosive, but more slow and plodding, looking for the perfect moment to strike and get the knockout. I think Joaquin Buckley is far more knockout dependent than Chris Curtis is, who could drag this fight out late, accelerate into a late fight, and show off that striking output and the ability to have better cardio once again. I think Joaquin Buckley has some cardio problems. He's managed to finish some fights in the later parts of it because his opponents like Albert Tarayev, Antonio Hoyo, even the fight that he had with Dolce Lungiambula, these guys are ones that, I'm sorry, not Dolce, Abdul Razak Al Hassan. These guys all fade a lot later than even Joaquin Buckley does. But I think Chris Curtis has another level beyond that of cardio, and he can push the pace and win this fight, maybe even by a late stoppage in this fight. So give me Chris Curtis to get the underdog victory here. Next up, this is, I'm not going to lie to you, this is my least confident money line of the card, but I do have 1.4 units at minus 140 on Elliot Taporia to defeat Bryce Mitchell. So this is a spot between two young guys, two rising prospects in the division at 145, and they're both undefeated. Elliot Taporia 12-0, Bryce Mitchell I think 15-0 at this point. Bryce Mitchell did have one loss on the Ultimate Fighter house, but that was an exhibition. He did get submitted by rear naked choke in that fight, though, in round 3. So something to keep an eye on, but that was a while ago. So far, Bryce Mitchell has been tearing through the competition. However, Elliot Taporia is the much more well-rounded fighter, in my opinion. He's got the striking power threat in this fight. He's the more likely to finish the fight inside the distance. So far, Bryce Mitchell has actually gone to decision more than he has finished the fight in the UFC so far. Elliot Taporia, on the other hand, 3 knockouts in his last 3 fights. So this is a step up in competition for both guys, in my opinion. Bryce Mitchell did have a great opponent in Edson Barbosa, but that guy is always getting taken down, and that's his kryptonite as a kickboxer. Elliot Taporia can be caught overswinging at times, sometimes headhunting too much. He had to get his durability tested in his last fight against Jai Herbert, eating a nasty kick, and then going into the second round and getting that knockout. So he's showing some resolve. Bryce Mitchell also going to the decision a lot more than Taporia, so he shows resolve there as well. But it comes down to more paths to victory for Elliot Taporia. He's got the striking output, the striking threat. If this stays on the feet, Elliot Taporia wins, and probably by finish. If this goes to the mat, Elliot Taporia's got a chance as well. He's got very good grappling himself. We'll just see if he can stuff the takedowns, land in a top position, and outlast Bryce Mitchell here. So to do that, give me Elliot Taporia. I'm taking the chance on the guy with more paths to victory at minus 140 to win 1 unit. I do have a bet on Dricus du Plessis. This is the biggest money line of the card, tied with the main event we'll get to, but I like Dricus du Plessis over Darren Till at middleweight. This is not the prime 170 title challenger of 2018 Darren Till. This is a long layoff. This is a injury after injury Darren Till at 185, where he's not done well lately. I got minus 145 on Dricus du Plessis. I put 2.5 units on it. And, Dricus du Plessis, 16 wins, 16 finishes until he ran into Brad Tavares, the biggest test of his career, and he had to dig deep to win that fight by decision for the first time. So landed over triple-digit significant strikes in that fight. showed toughness, durability, fighting through fatigue, and he dug deep and persevered. Dricus du Plessis can do that. Darren Till has never once dug deep in a fight, in my opinion. He's never once, especially at middleweight, had to dig deep to win a fight. I don't think he starts at this point in 2022. Darren Till just looking very out of shape these days. He is knockout or bust in this fight. But Dricus du Plessis has very explosive striking as well, and I think he can finish Darren Till, if not win another decision. So give me Dricus du Plessis to defeat the low volume, low output, knockout or bust Darren Till. For the main event, I have another 2.5 unit bet, and this is on Magomed Ankalaev at minus 250 to win 1 unit over Jan Blachowicz, the former champion. Now, Magomed Ankalaev is on a 9-fight winning streak. He is 9 years younger than Jan Blachowicz, and this comes down to, once again, Magomed Ankalaev just has way more weapons in this fight, way more ways to win, in this fight. He's well-rounded, better accuracy, better defense on average, the better wrestler in this fight, so it would be a clear advantage if he wrestles Jan Blachowicz. He's a big guy. He can match the size and strength of Jan Blachowicz, but he can stand and strike at range, win a kickboxing fight, edge out a decision over Jan as well. Or if Jan wants to get aggressive, take chances, that nice straight left of Ankalaev is accurate and powerful. He could put the lights out of Jan Blachowicz as well if Blachowicz is sloppy rushing into the pocket. So a wide variety of options here. Even if Jan can hurt Ankalaev, Ankalaev has the wrestling to bail himself out. Very fast takedown, very fast shooting ability of Ankalaev in this spot. And I think Jan Blachowicz is the much more finish-dependent fighter, and he's 39 years old. Doesn't have the best run to get to the championship when he did so in the first place. And I certainly think he's outgunned here and outmatched against Ankalaev. So give me Ankalaev 2.5 units at minus 250. Okay, moving on to some props for this card. I have played 3 myself. Very low investment, high payout props, and I do have 3 additional props I want to talk about that I recommend, but I'm not personally playing. The ones that I am playing, I have 0.1 units a piece on these high payout props. The first one is on the first fight of the prelims, Cameron Simon versus Steven Kaslow. This is a spot where we've got 2 young kids in their early 20s making their debut. Now, Cameron Simon, a sizable favorite. I do think he wins the fight. More of a well-rounded game plan, in my opinion. But he's making his debut, and he's 6-0. His opponent, Steven Kaslow, also 6-0, and this guy is purely a grappler. He's won 6 of his bouts, and he's gotten round 1 submission in all of those. So, oddly enough, the prop for Steven Kaslow to win in round 1 by submission is plus 1,200. So, the only way he's proven to win a fight so far on short notice, I'll take 0.1 units on the upset here in the only method he's proven us so far. So, I like that bet. But like I said, I do think Simon should win the fight. The other 2 0.1 unit sprinkles on bets I have are on the same fight. Once again, fading a young debuting fighter here in Raul Rosas Jr. I think Rosas Jr. defeats Jay Perrin. I think his grappling is superior, but Jay Perrin has been to way more decisions. He has a lot more fights, and he's proven to be a pretty gritty 29-year-old. So 11 years the senior, 11 more years of combat experience. And for Jay Perrin to win by knockout in round 2 or round 3 is plus 2,800 and plus 3,500 respectively. So I put 0.1 units on both of those outcomes for Jay Perrin. If he can drag Raul Rosas Jr. into the part of a fight where he's not as comfortable, if Jay Perrin can survive some early submission offense, maybe Raul Rosas Jr. burns himself out chasing submissions in round 1. Jay Perrin's got the far superior and proven striking than Raul Rosas Jr. So I like those props. Shout out to my guy Danny, a.k.a. Herc MMA. He's been killing it with these long shot props, and he brought that mispriced long shot prop to my attention early in the week. So I put 0.1 units on each of those. Those are the ones that I've played. So not very much investment, just hunting for some long shots there to have some fun. The other props that I like, here's 3 of them that I do really like on this card. Any of the round 3 props for Billy Quarantillo over Alexander Hernandez, I do like. So Billy Q in round 3, just in general, plus 1,100 I see out there. This is a guy in Billy Q who has a lot of round 3 stoppages. He's got a crazy pace and output. More of a war of attrition fighter, kind of like death by 1,000 cuts is Billy Q. And Alexander Hernandez is the opposite. He's more of a flash KO guy early, fades late. So at a new weight class for Hernandez, like I mentioned earlier, I think Billy Q could end this inside the distance in round 3 to get a plus 1,100 by a way that he's won many fights before. I like that one. Edmund Shabazian, fight does not go to decision versus Dalchalungiambula. These are two guys that, just like I talked about with Hernandez, these guys start very fast, don't conserve a lot of energy, and they fold in round 2 or round 3. So probably more likely Dalchalungiambula will suffer that outcome and that defeat to Edmund Shabazian. But Shabazian is just as guilty as dropping the ball, choking as the fight goes on. So either one of these guys to just not see the scorecards, minus 230. I don't think that's too bad. That's a lot of their proven win condition is inside the distance. Or you can shave off 2 minutes and 30 seconds of that and just say fight does not complete 2 rounds and just hope that this does not see a third round. That's at minus 135 on Bovada. I like that spot quite a bit. I think this probably ends under 1.5, honestly. So I think Shabazian wins that fight more likely than not, but both guys guilty of choking. I'd rather not pick a side and just pick that this fight does not see the scorecards. The last one I like is Jared Gordon to defeat Paddy the Baddy Pimblett by decision, plus 350 to plus 500 for that decision prop on Jared Gordon to pull off the upset over the highly hyped and very fun, to be honest, Paddy Pimblett, who I hope wins. I like Paddy the Baddy. I like his whole style. It's pretty cool, but let's not forget, Jared Gordon has been in the UFC for a while now. He's gone 11-0 in decisions in his career. Never lost the scorecards in his mixed martial arts career. So Paddy, largely a finish dependent. He's had 3 fights in the UFC now for Paddy. They've all ended inside the distance, 2 by submission, 1 by knockout. Jared Gordon, not much of a finisher himself. A lot of his fights he spends either out wrestling a worse grappler than him or just using some really tight traditional boxing early and just hanging in there and winning a close decision. He could pull that off against Paddy. If he can survive the early onslaught of Paddy Pimblett's exciting, unorthodox striking, if he can survive the slick back takes and slick submission game of Paddy early, he could find himself in a spot where he slowly out-cardios Paddy Pimblett, breaks him mentally. Maybe Paddy Pimblett is content to play jiu-jitsu off of his back for too long, loses the round. I like Jared Gordon by decision. That's most likely his path to victory. So to get, transform his money line from plus 220 to double that to like a plus 500 potentially by decision, I like that spot. If you're on the Jared Gordon side, probably how he gets this one done. So thank you guys for watching. Hit the like, hit the subscribe. Let's finish strong for the last pay-per-view of the year. We still have one fight night left next week, which will be fun as well, in Cannonier versus Strickland. I like the fight card. And then we will have a break. So let's finish this year strong. I want to get a better result this week. I did very well with calling the fights last week as far as who would win. I'm trying to replicate that success with a moneyline game plan this week. And there's some additional fun props for you guys. So, like I said in the beginning, check out BetUS Sportsbook. Use my promo code if you want to help out the channel and also put some money in your pockets with that deposit bonus. And I will talk to you guys next time on Sunday for the recap. Cheers.